This is the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, Episode 13. The Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast is a bi-weekly podcast dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Hello again, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff Cinterpino, founder and president of the Scuba Educational Alliance of Connecticut, and your host. And welcome to March 2025. They say that March is the start of meteorological spring, and that's a good thing because I'm ready to put winter behind me and enjoy some warmer weather. I'm on the lookout for the first hint of green outside now that the snow and ice has all melted. We're closing in on the deadline on applications for our 2025 Ocean Steward 1 and 2 scholarships. We'll close out the submissions on March 15th and then award the scholarships on March 31st. Helping create the next generation of ocean stewards through scuba diving is really important these days, given everything that's going on. Also, Donna and I are getting ready to head up to Danvers, Massachusetts next weekend for the Boston Sea Rover Show. You know it's spring when the Sea Rovers get together. Should be a lot of fun. Now, I'll be chairing the Cousteau Room on Saturday morning, so if you're at the show, please stop by and say hello. Today, I want to get back to a fun part of scuba diving, dive travel. Now, I'm going to give you an update on my 3 top dive travel destinations and what I look for at a resort. But first, let's do some news and information updates with Sea State. This is Sea State here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast for Thursday, March 6th, 2025. First up today, I saw an announcement on Dive Newswire from Blue Green Expeditions about an upcoming trip. This one is an exclusive Arctic citizen science expedition. Now, it's labeled on their website as the Best of the Arctic Expedition, and it's going to be led by Faith Ortiz. Now, I've known Faith for many years, and she runs some absolutely fantastic trips. The adventure runs from August 16th to August 30th, 2025, and it starts in Spitsbergen, Norway. Now, Spitsbergen is the largest and only permanently inhabited island on the Svalbard archipelago in northern Norway, and that's in the Arctic Ocean. The trip traverses the ice pack from there, and they go down to Greenland and then finally make their way to Iceland. As a citizen science expedition, you're going to do phyto and zooplankton collection, benthic surveys, and beach cleanup. Now, if you have the time and resources, this is probably a once-in-a-lifetime trip. You can check it out at bluegreenexpeditions.com. Well, I think all of us here in the United States are a little concerned about how our environmental policies and protections will head. Now, in December 2024, NOAA Fisheries changed the status of pillar coral from threatened to endangered. Now, this was after 5 years of review by experts and with the input of public comment. I know you just don't see much pillar coral around, and we all get excited when we see it, like when we came across some in Little Cayman. It is endangered of extinction and was supposed to go on the endangered list in accordance with the Endangered Species Act on February 18th, 2025. Now, that has been pushed back at least until March 21st, 2025, based on the White House memo from January 20th that's titled Regulatory Freeze Pending Review. That calls for a review of all pending regulations for 60 days. So now, we really don't know if this switch from threatened to endangered will go into effect on March 21st. We just need to check this one out again and see. As I said, I think there are a lot of us who are worried about the uncertain direction from the U.S. leadership these days when it comes to environmental policy. couple of years ago at the Boston Sea Rovers Film Festival, Tara Roberts, who is a National Geographic explorer in residence, did a presentation. The presentation was about the podcast that she produced in 2022 titled Into the Depths. And this was about the work she had done with a group of black scuba divers, diving with a purpose, and their efforts to find and survey slave ship wrecks around the world. The work also was featured at the March 2020, or as a March 2022 cover story for National Geographic's, and would earn her the Rolex National Geographic Explorer of the Year. Pretty impressive stuff. Now, Tara has released a book about this work. The title is Written in the Water, a memoir of history, home, and belonging. The book is published by National Geographic and was released on January 28, 2025. You can get a copy of it pretty much from any bookseller online. Retail is $30, but I'm sure you can find it for less. That's Written in the Water by Tara Roberts. Back in October, I told you about some exciting news regarding the SS United States and its future as an artificial reef off the coast of Florida in the Panhandle area. Well, announcements are one thing, but action is another, and now we have action. On February 19th, the SS United States has finally gotten underway from the pier in Philadelphia where it had been for the past 30 years. It started the 1,800 nautical mile journey under tow at 5 knots. The 18-day trip has taken it through the Delaware Bay, out into the Atlantic, past Cape Hatteras, and around the Florida Peninsula, and then into the Gulf. Not sure what Gulf, Mexico or America. Politics, don't you love it? And it's making its way into Mobile, Alabama. Now, there's a short YouTube video on the departure that was produced by the Okaloosa County, Florida, that runs just over about a minute. And then for a more dramatic drone footage of the departure, you can check out a video by Wildwood Adventure Archives. Now, there are a lot of folks excited about this new life of a great ship, although there are many of us who hoped it could survive above the waves. Do you have a bucket list for diving, like diving on all 7 continents? Well, if that's not on your bucket list, I think you'll still like this story. This one comes from CBS Mornings, and it's about Barrington Scott, a diver who set a world record for diving all 7 continents in the fastest time. His certified Guinness World Record is 19 days, 19 hours, and 40 minutes, and he broke the previous record that was 30 days. Now, Barrington is originally from the Bronx, New York, and learned to swim while serving in the U.S. Marine Corps. He became a scuba diver about 10 years ago in the Bahamas. So he decided to try to dive on all 7 continents. He started in Australia, then made his way to Thailand before heading to Egypt. From there, he went on to Malta and then crossed the Atlantic to Miami. Barrington then went down to Argentina and finished up his world record at King George Island in Antarctica. The journey was about 30,000 miles. If you want to learn more about this incredible accomplishment, just search on Barrington Scott World Record for Diving All 7 Continents. There's a lot out there. Wow, what a feat. And finally, it's always a good week when the latest issue of the Journal of Diving History shows up in the mailbox. Now, this quarterly publication from the Historical Diving Society, USA, is one of the longest-running dive magazines published in the United States and has come out without interruption since 1992, even during the pandemic. The cover story and feature article for this first quarter 2025 is about Jacques Cousteau's first book, titled At a Depth of 18 Meters, History of a Film. And it is believed to be the first English language translation of the book to be published. But the big news for the Society is that the Board of Directors announced the appointment of Nicole Russell as the new president. She is taking over from John Council, who has led HDS for the past 5 years. Nicole is the first woman to head any of the International Historical Diving Society's groups. Nicole is also DEMA's Vice President of Operation, and I've had the privilege of working with her over the past couple of years. I congratulate Nicole and look forward to her leadership at HDS USA. Well, that wraps up this installment of Sea State here on the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast. Scuba divers are adventurers. Our passion takes us on an underwater journey of exploration. Now, some of us live in areas where there are absolutely fantastic dive sites right in our own backyard. Many of us, however, don't have the same good fortune of having great local diving. And even if we do have some great dive sites locally, as I said, we are adventurers and want to get out there diving around the world. So today, I thought I would give you an update on my top 3 places where I like to get out there diving. But let me start off first with some of my criteria for a location. First, it has to be a warm water location. Yes, I still have my dry suit hanging in my dive locker, but as I get older, the thought of getting into it and diving into colder waters just doesn't appeal any longer. Now, there are many who would disagree with that, like I said, but I'm sure there are quite a few of us who have joined that 80-80-80 club. At least 80 feet visibility, dive in aluminum 80, and have water temperatures of at least 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So warm water is one of my first criteria. A second criteria that I use is the type of resort. I prefer all-inclusive meals with the dive shop on premises. I'm not a foodie and I'm really not all that into going out to different restaurants. I like the convenience of not getting into cabs or driving to a restaurant. It's not about the money, it's about the convenience. And obviously, a third criterion, a big one, is the diving. For me, I'm okay with the simpler reef or muck dives at this point. Not very interested in diving with current. And another factor is the dive boats. I really like the Newton dive boats, but there are certainly others out there that are just as nice. I do look very closely at the type of boats at the resort. And finally, how easy is it to get to the location from where I live? So, with some of those general considerations in mind, let me take you through my top 3 destinations and resorts. First up, my number 1 dive resort and destination is Atlantis Dive Resorts in Dumaguete in the Philippines. Now, Atlantis has 2 resorts. In addition to Dumaguete, they also have one in Puerto Galera. I've been to both, and both are outstanding. I prefer the resort in Dumaguete. I've been there twice, and I'm heading back to Atlantis Dumaguete in October, and I can't wait. The rooms at the resort are very spacious, they're nicely furnished, and they give you a lot of space. Then there are the meals, blackboard menu with choice of 3 entrees at lunch and dinner, along with a very filling breakfast. The dive locker is only a few steps away from the restaurant. Each diver gets their own space in the dive locker to store their gear. All you have to do is analyze your nitrox tank and the staff takes over. Your BC and regulator are put together and they're transported down to the boat. All you need to do is put on your wetsuit and then grab your personal gear like mask, fins, and camera and walk down. There are 2 types of boats, the smaller 6-person pangas or the larger outrigger boats that you find in the Philippines. They're easy to board, and the dive sites are only a few minutes away. Very convenient. And then there's the incredible diving. I hadn't really experienced muck diving until we got to Dumaguete. I love it. The bottom comes alive with all sorts of things. Never boring. And if you want a fantastic reef, the 40-minute boat ride to Apo Island is a place you cannot miss. Some of the most amazing coral reefs in the world. Yes, getting to Dumaguete from the east coast of the United States is a long haul, but there are a lot of different options to get to Manila and then hop on the short flight to Dumaguete. So my number 1 destination and resort is Atlantis Dive Resorts in Dumaguete. Number 2 is the Sea Cortez on board the Rocio del Mar, operated by Mexico Liveaboards. Now, they're going to be having a new boat come out later this year, the Kino del Mar, that looks really nice. The number 1 reason that I like this trip is the spectacular diving. is very different from anything that we do here in the Caribbean. The absolute isolation and landscape above the water is stunning. You think you're on a different planet. And then there are the sea lion colonies. You get to experience them both above and below the water. They do a nice job with the meals and the snacks in between the dives. The setup on the dive deck is efficient and you get used to the routine very quickly. Getting to the Rocio is a bit of an adventure, but not difficult. Most people fly into Phoenix and then take the van from Phoenix to Puerto Penasco, or as it's also called, Rocky Point. The trip takes you through the desert, and it's about 5 hours. And again, the scenery is really nice, especially for us who are accustomed to the Northeast. The only downside is that if you get seasick, you might have some problems. I never had that challenge and spent a lot of time at sea in the Navy. But it can be difficult if you get hit with any type of rough weather. Now for number 3, it's a tie of all 3 Cayman Islands. I just couldn't choose one over the other. Kind of like picking your favorite child. I would jump on the opportunity to go to any of them. And if I'm going to Little Cayman or Cayman Brac, my preferred choice is the Clearly Cayman Resorts. Great food, nice rooms, convenient dive shop, and dive lockers, and they have the Newton dive boats that I like. And then there's Sunset House on Grand Cayman. This is one of my go-to places to dive. Even though it's not an all-inclusive resort, I really don't need to leave the property because of the great restaurant on premises. Additionally, for us, getting to Grand Cayman from where I live is pretty easy. We can leave early morning and fly through either Charlotte or Miami and be in Grand Cayman by noon. If I'm going to Sunset House, I can even sneak in an afternoon shore dive that first day. Now, getting to Little Cayman is a little more involved because you need to take that small twin otter over from Grand Cayman. But if you're going to the Brac, they fly some bigger aircrafts. Plus, you can get a flight on Cayman Air out of Miami directly to Cayman Brac. Each of the Cayman Islands offers a little bit different diving, but I enjoy all of them. So I really can't pick one over the other. Just point me to any of them, and I'll be very happy. So there are my top 3 dive destinations and resorts. Number 1, Atlantis, Dumaguete in the Philippines. Number 2, the Sea of Cortez aboard Mexico Liveaboards. And number 3, a tie for all 3 Cayman Islands, staying at the Clearly Cayman Resorts or Sunset House. Well, we're headed out to Indonesia in October for 9 days at Dive in the Lembeh, right before we spend our week at Atlantis Dumaguete. It's going to be an awesome trip. I may have to revisit my top 3 after that. There are just so many great places to dive. Time and money, that's all it takes. Well, that wraps up this latest episode of the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon, and I'll give you a recap of the Boston Sea Rovers show. Bye for now. This has been the Scuba Educational Alliance Ocean Podcast, a show dedicated to the world of scuba diving, ocean health, sustainability, and fostering a new generation of ocean stewards through diving education. Talk to you again real soon.